So today we're going to talk about the whole concept around big firm versus small firm. And as many of you know, we do national recruiting, and right now we have many jobs across the country for paralegals and or attorneys, as well as receptionists and some marketing and professional legal administrator positions, etc. Non-attorney salespeople, but you may or may not have noticed that the unemployment rate in the legal space for attorneys and paralegals is under 2% was the last number that I had saw. And a lot of times we'll present candidates to the attorneys for paralegals as well as associate attorneys. And when we present their resume, number one, our interview notes, as well as their salary requirements and what they're currently making, the attorneys will inevitably come back, doesn't matter what city or state, and say we can't compete with those salaries. They're working for big firms, they have high billable hour requirements, they are worked out, they work to the bone, no work-life balance, things of that nature. Talk to them about being close to the heartbeat of the business, small firm, etc. And we do a very good job of enrolling and selling people into culture, work-life balance, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, they need to pay their bills. And we have people that will take a salary cut based on commutes, things of that nature. But the thing that just absolutely fascinated me, after time and time again, we were getting this feedback back that in regards to what small law firms believe, because we know you've worked in big law firms before you've hung your own shingle, but the perception that just globally and across the board is that it's, work it to the bone model. So I had two of my recruiters last week actually hop on a project where I had them call every state where we had jobs. So we have, I think, probably 15 jobs open right now in in different states. And I had them research, find big firms and small firms and try to get a hold of associate attorneys and offer them an incentive that we would give them some free drive-by coaching in regards to their resume and their LinkedIn profile. If they would hop on the phone with us for 10 minutes, let us interview them about the day in the life of an associate attorney in regards to their KPIs, their salary, billable hour requirements, work-life balance, things of that nature. We also did the same with paralegals as well, because there's such a shortage for paralegals, especially if you have a niche specific practice where you want someone with the exact skill set and knowledge. And it's the end of the year now, we're getting close to that. So people are waiting to get their year-end bonus. And if they're going to make a switch, now is the time. So just as a sidebar, if you are thinking of adding to your team in Q1 of 2020, our greatest recommendation is you start that search now, because this is a time where people begin to make that hop. And it's like finding a needle in a haystack, but if anyone's going to do it, we will. But anyways, we were on the phone and interviewing these associate attorneys, and it was fascinating. For a very long time, I believed into the standardization that big firms, and I know many of you attorneys have worked in big firms. Some it might have been 10, 20 years since then. But because of such the shortage of attorneys and paralegals, and because of the shift and the change in the dynamic in big firms since after 2008, I was blown away by the information that we got. And some of them I went back and actually spoke with the associate attorneys and the paralegals. So for example, there's paralegal in South Florida that we interviewed, and she's making very good money in regards to base salary, very niche specific practice in estate planning, probate, and elder law. And she was making way more than the small practice attorney was hoping to pay for a base salary. And when we presented the resume, he's like, well, we can't compete with that. She's working in a big firm. I know that she's working like a dog, etc. So when I got on the phone and interviewed her, and I said, walk me through your KPIs and walk me through what your day-to-day world looked like. And the reason she was looking for a move was, number one, because of her commute. And she wanted to be closer, which is exactly in the backyard of this law firm. And number two was that she was getting to a place where she wasn't really inspired enough. And here's why: she wanted to get closer to the clients, because at one point she had been, but then the firm grew so much. So her job, she was responsible for 16 attorneys. Her billable hour requirements she was able to accomplish, and that was her only KPI: billable hour requirements. So finish your billable hour requirements, and then she knows that it goes up the chain of command to go sit on the one of the senior attorneys' desks to review and make changes and revise. But all she had to do was reach her billable hour requirements, and she was doing the work of 16 attorneys. So very easy for her to accomplish that. And they had systems and running like a well-oiled machine. She was handling the probate department. And she said, I'm able to crush it out. Once I hit my billable hour requirements, I get bonused if I go over my billable hour requirements, but your bottom dollar I'm able to do every single week. And then after that, she has another bonus track where she gets bonused on receivables in regards to bringing in the revenue and the collections of that as well. So she had a very, very healthy base salary package. She had a very, very healthy incentive-based compensation plan, in addition to bonus and things of that nature, unlimited time off, and as well as she met her requirements. And she said she was working, roughly 37 hours a week, not much more over that, because she knew that her job was to work the conveyor belt, if you will. And she didn't have to worry about client experience. She didn't have to worry about all those other things. Now, again, she was missing, and I enrolled her and helped her realize that was a piece of her job of why she would even hop on the phone and consider our opportunity. And then I spoke with an attorney on the East Coast yesterday. And again, the attorney that we are hiring for, the small solo practice attorney, had a requirement of 1,900 billable hours that the candidate or the new associate would have to bring in. She's in a big, big firm where the average attorney stayed at that firm for 16 years. And she was on a team of 6. And the only reason she had just lost 3 people, and it was because the firm opened up offices in different parts of the country. And so that's why she lost her 3 people on her team. And the reason she started looking was because there was no partner track at that firm. But when I started interviewing her, she had no billable hour requirements. And she was very intrigued by the offer and our presentation in regards to the small solo law firm and all the benefits that. But the reason she didn't take the job was because of the billable hour requirements in the small solo law firm, which is fascinating because she's in the biggest law firm in that area within 50 miles of the practice, and she had no billable hour requirements in a very large firm. So there's a lot of this myths, if you will, or misconception around bringing in candidates from big firms that you can't compete with their salaries, number one. Number two, that around their mindsets, around their work-life balance and things of that nature. And the reason for today's conversation is to help you shift that a little bit. If you are out there and you are in the process of hiring, especially for legal assistants, law clerks, paralegals, and absolutely for associate attorneys, do not negate the ones that come from big law firms, because on the flip side of that, there's many that we spoke to that they don't have any type of incentive-based compensation plans at all. You might not be able to compete with their base salary. And many times, if you can enroll them into the culture, into your mentorship and things of that nature, especially some of the newbies, then build a healthy incentive-based compensation plan for them. And again, there's many different models out there between the Bar Association and many of the phenomenal legal organizations. We have sample ones we certainly can share with you that have worked very, very effectively in small solo law firms. But don't be seduced by the resume, or don't be intimidated by the resume in regards to big firm, because at the end of the day, you can hire someone that has 7-10 years experience, which often we hear, I need someone with experience. I don't have time to train them. I don't have time to mentor them. I need them to come in, hit the ground running, and start producing results. And not a lot of times people can't because they had a paralegal, they had a law clerk, they had a whole team of assistants behind them. And so often when I can't get the attorneys to shift, to hire the mindset, the emotional intelligence, the longevity, the eagerness to learn, the deep, deep desire to serve, when they don't have that, they might not have the years of experience, but the human traits I have in place. And when I can't get the attorneys to shift on that, and they're all about years of experience and believing they come in as batteries included, it's amazing how many of them, when they negate all the human stuff and they negate all their active listening, their coachability and things of that nature, well, they'll call me and say, okay, I should have listened to you. I did hire that person based on years of experience, but they're a disaster. All of their documents had just, the writing was awful because they had a team of legal assistants and paralegals, et cetera, that would proof their work. So don't make up a story in your head about this whole thing around small firm versus big firm. That's really shifted. And I would highly encourage you to get on the phone through your interviewing process and talk to people, because at the end of the day, the candidates that we produce, I can't tell you how many attorneys will say to us, why are you presenting this candidate to us? I don't even want to talk to them. I don't even want to see them based on their resume. And there's many of you that are probably watching this video that are laughing and say, she's right. I've been there. She's presented. She made me get on a Zoom interview with them and do an interview with them. And that was the person that I hired. And that person's been with me for 5 years. That person's been with me for 3 years. So hire from a place of the human stuff that you cannot train in regards to mindset, emotional intelligence, and energy, and what they bring to the table. And don't worry about their resume, and get rid of this story about big firm, law firm, or big firm, small firm, because at the end of the day, the candidates are interviewing you just as much. So you have to have a competitive package, not necessarily about salary, but you want to do your due diligence in your marketplace, maybe give an assignment to one of your law clerks or something of that nature if you're thinking of hiring, and have them do something very similar to that. Doing a little study, just want to hear, I'm a law clerk, maybe I'm thinking of going to law school, tell me what your day looks like, what your compensation plan. And I couldn't believe how many people got on the phone with us. I mean, we had very, very little, like less than 10% that responded or didn't respond and or decline. So do you have fun with the R&D and get some real data and knowledge that you can anchor to as you embark on your next hiring process.